Well, welcome to the 700 Club. A cross has stood over the Mojave Desert for 75 years. Today, the Supreme Court hears a case that will determine if it can stay.
And their decision could affect memorials from Anaheim to Arlington. Paul Strand has that story.
The Supreme Court focuses today on a man-sized cross hundreds of miles out in the desert, a tribute to fallen soldiers in World War I. But it offended a Mojave Desert Preserve employee, and because it was on federal property, the ACLU asserted it violated separation of church and state. Lower courts have agreed, ordering it be covered in plywood so as not to offend. But those who want the cross to stay say this case shouldn't even be in court because no one's been hurt.
The courts have universally said merely being offended is not enough. Otherwise, everybody would be in court.
Other backers of the cross say if the Supreme Court won't allow this cross to stand,
it will then have to bulldoze Arlington Cemetery, put plywood around our coins, and eliminate and erase the religious symbols throughout, not only our nation's capital, but throughout our country.
That's the argument for leaving the cross alone. But there are those who feel there are legitimate reasons for ripping it down.
Is the cross really an appropriate symbol to memorialize all war dead? Does it memorialize non-Christians?
Reverend Rob Schenck just returned from visiting the cross and says he was shocked just how tiny and humble it was, hardly worth a federal case. He ran into a British tourist who looked at the covered cross and said,
things like this, meaning the boxing of this cross, the covering of it by court order, he said, things like this make you Americans look ridiculous.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Well, this is your tax dollars at work. I mean, it costs money to litigate this kind of stuff, and when you start taking this to its logical conclusion, what are they going to do with Arlington National Cemetery? I mean, that is public land. That's government land. And if you have all those rows and rows and rows of crosses, is that a government endorsement? You look at these kinds of things. This is a World War I memorial. Veterans got together to put that up, to say we want to remember our dead, our fallen comrades. And here we are, decades later, arguing about, is this permissible under the Constitution, which says Congress can pass no law respecting the establishment of religion. It's talking about a state-run church. It's not talking about these kinds of symbols, particularly something of this kind of historical nature. I hope the Supreme Court reviews it on the merits, and we can stop this nonsense. They may have to reverse some previous decisions, but I hope they look at it the merits. There's an easy out for them to say that the park official who brought the case doesn't have standing because there's no real offense to him. If they take the easy way out, we're just going to have more cases come down the pike. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, same-sex marriage could be legal in the nation's capital before the end of the year. A gay member of the Washington, D.C. City Council has introduced a bill permitting those marriages. 10 of the 13 council members support the bill, and D.C.'s mayor has pledged to sign it. U.S. Congressman Jason Chaffetz, though, is the ranking Republican of the House subcommittee that oversees D.C. affairs. He tells CBN News it's time for people to stand up for traditional marriage and get involved.
One of the best things that can happen is if the residents of Washington, D.C. can sign enough petitions and actually force it to a vote. We're going to try to force it for a vote on the floor in the House of Representatives. But we also need to have that fight happen here in Washington, D.C., and as it comes up in other states as well.
But we're told that Congress probably will not overturn the bill, but a group led by Bishop Harry Jackson wants the people of D.C. to be able to vote on the issue. Nearly 90,000 homes were destroyed or severely damaged in last week's earthquake in Indonesia. Entire villages were wiped out by landslides. With thousands homeless and needing food, Operation Blessing rushed to the scene to help survivors. Many of them are still hoping to find their missing loved ones.
Uhelmi believes her 13-year-old daughter is still here, buried under the rubble of the school. Days after a powerful earthquake shook this place, Uhelmi and her relatives are hoping against all hope that rescue teams will find Yosa.
My heart is so broken. She's my only daughter from all my children. My feeling is almost indescribable. Or maybe, like this rumble in front of me, is what my heart is like now. I will stay here. I won't go until my daughter is found.
Uhelmi is not alone. Across this area, families are still searching for loved ones amidst the death and destruction. More than 1,000 people have died, but thousands more are thought to be missing after a massive 7.6 magnitude quake struck the Indonesian island of Sumatra a week ago today. This is what remains of a 3-star hotel in Padang. The hotel was full of guests attending seminars the day the quake struck. Septanang was fortunate to make it out.
Because we never expected that a disaster would happen, now I am grieving over the loss of my friends. I am so sad. I felt the bonding already happened among all of us. On the second day of the seminar, the atmosphere was full of happiness. We felt the closeness.
The city of Padang is slowly coming back to life, but the situation is more dire in many of the remote villages. The epicenter of this devastating quake lies 60 kilometers north of Padang, in Paraman, where hundreds of villages lie in ruins, and hundreds of families now live or sleep outdoors with no place to go. And it is here that Operation Blessing has come. Thousands of food packages to help families to make it to the next week are pouring in, as well as blankets, tents, and emergency medical treatment. Labai Suri, an Islamic teacher, lost 6 members of his family. The bodies of 3 of them had been found, and he took us to a small mosque where they were waiting for proper burial. Because he no longer has many relatives who are able to take care of him, Operation Blessing gave him medical treatment and provided him with food and shelter. Just one of the many victims, Operation Blessing is here to help.
And of course, Gordon, this is just one of 3 tragedies that has struck the South Pacific in recent days. You had the tsunami in the Samoan Islands and the hurricane or the typhoon in the Philippines. So they're really dealing with a lot there.
They are. And when disaster strikes, we want to be there to strike back, to have hands of compassion and love for people in need. If you're a member of the 700 Club, thank you, because you're helping those people in Indonesia. You're helping the people in the Philippines. We have disaster teams working in both countries. Pray for both of them. The magnitude of this earthquake, it's been about a week since it happened, and we're now just coming into a full understanding. And the government of Indonesia is literally talking about whole villages that don't exist anymore, and there may not be any survivors because of the magnitude of this quake. So. Be in prayer for those who are survivors in their time of grief. And if you want to help, all you have to do is join the 700 Club. It's just $20 a month, 65 cents a day. A portion of every gift to the 700 Club goes in the work of Operation Blessing to bring help to people in need around the world. If you want to make a difference, all you have to do is join the 700 Club. We're a lot more than just a TV show.